So we should all be able to see my screen and my slides. Jack has done a fantastic introduction, so I won't spend too much time introducing myself again. But as mentioned, my name is Rachel Sammut. I'm an assistant professor in marketing at the University of Bradford. I'm also our newly appointed Associate Dean for Global Business and Community Engagement. And I have been, before joining the university, I worked quite extensively in industry, focusing on digital marketing and marketing strategy as well. So as Jack mentioned, I very recently completed my Viva at the University of Bradford with a thesis titled Beyond the Echo, focusing on the exploration of usage, anthropomorphism, and user smart object relationships in the age of Amazon Alexa. And of course, we will discuss some of those kind of areas in the talk today, but I've tried to keep it quite industry focused because I know we have quite a varied audience as well. So again, thank you very much for joining. It is very nice to be here. Also very, very nice to see some past students. I've seen a few of the names pop up, so welcome. I'm glad to see you here. And to everyone else, very nice to meet you, and I hope you enjoyed the talk, of course. So I'll jump straight into it. What we are going to be looking at today is conversational AI in marketing. I'm going to start off the talk by very quickly giving you an introduction to what conversational AI actually is. We'll follow that through with the role of voice-controlled smart assistants, which I'll refer to as VCSAs to save some breath as I go through them. And then, of course, we'll also look at chatbots in marketing, which are also a key form of conversational AI. Now, once we have a good idea of what they are and what role they play within marketing, we're going to take a quick look at the impact of conversational AI on things like user interaction and consumer behavior. And then I'm going to wrap things up with future trends for conversational AI in marketing and kind of potential to take things forward as well as marketers. So I've seen a few of the little chat messages come through when discussing what comes to mind when considering AI, which is great. But I think it will be good to kind of position where conversational AI really fits within the realm of AI in itself. So conversational AI is a technology that allows computers to understand and respond to human language in a very natural and conversational way, similar to how I'm talking to you now. It feels very organic. So conversational AI systems usually use a variety of different technologies. They'll make use of natural language processing, natural language understanding, machine learning, sometimes even going as far as making use of things like deep learning to really comprehend the meaning and the overall context of human inputs and be able to generate appropriate and organic responses. So these kind of systems, conversational AI in itself, can be found in various applications, which we're going to go through today. But they're usually found in both business and home settings. And they're usually used for tasks like as simple as scheduling meetings or managing data, all the way through to actually purchasing for customers, which is great. But ultimately, the goal of conversational AI, whatever format it's in, is to create human-like interactions that are ultimately very efficient, helpful, and user-friendly. So that's conversational AI in a very quick nutshell. Now, for most of us, we are likely quite familiar with one of these three key types of conversational AI. The first of which is chatbots, and I'm not going to go too much into it because, of course, we will discuss it further on in the webinar. But chatbots are ultimately text-based conversational agents that aim to simulate human-like conversations through text to assist users. Now, we've all probably bumped into a chatbot once or twice on a website looking for customer support. They're very commonly seen on e-commerce platforms or customer-facing websites as well. Now, the second that I, of course, focus on, and this is where my research really lies, is voice assistants, voice-controlled smart assistants, VCSAs. And unlike chatbots, these are AI-driven assistants that aim to interact with users through speech and assist with performing tasks that can be as simple as setting reminders, providing weather updates, playing music, all the way through to controlling smart home devices or purchasing products even. So for a lot of us, VCSAs are properly well known as Amazon Alexa or Apple Siri or Google Assistant. But this is where my research lies. So of course, we'll be focusing on VCSAs kind of as the majority throughout this talk. But alongside chatbots and VCSAs, we also have interactive voice bots, which are more so similar to chatbots than they are VCSAs, although they are called voice bots. So similar to chatbots, voice bots are specifically designed to interact with users through preset voice commands. So a good example of a voice bot is when, for instance, you phone your bank. I know HSBC does this quite a lot. You'll have an automated voice asking you, what is it that you need to talk about today? Or what is it that you need help with today? You'll say it and they'll direct you to the right department. Or utility services do that a lot as well. So these don't have the programming to actively respond back in an organic manner, but they have the ability to interact through voice commands as well. So these types are the kind of the key types of conversational AI that we see both in industry and as a focus within academia at the moment. And they all serve different purposes. They're all used across various industries to enhance customer interactions, streamline processes, and improve user experience. But ultimately, their main goal, regardless, is to provide support and service to customers. So what we are going to be talking about today are the two main types of conversational AI. We're going to talk about chatbots, and of course, we're going to talk about VCSAs, probably VCSAs in a little bit more depth, because as I say, that's my area of focus. So we're going to jump straight into VCSAs, and I've given you kind of that very brief definition already. But it's worth it to kind of note that VCSAs are, of course, AI-powered software that respond to voice commands and perform various tasks that help or that help provide assistance to customers. Now, usually we see VCSAs being used for reminders, playing music, so on and so forth. But there's a lot of scope with voice-controlled smart assistants, and we'll talk a little bit about how they're being used in marketing, but also how they have impacted consumer behavior. And as I say, the main kind of three types that we see quite a lot are Amazon Alexa, Apple Siri, Google Assistants, and even Microsoft Cortana. Now, my research mostly focused on Amazon Alexa because, of course, this is the main kind of the biggest VCSA on the market at the moment. But collectively, we see Apple Siri, Google Assistant, Microsoft Cortana. We see them quite often popping up kind of all over the place. So we've seen a massive increase in the use of VCSAs over the past, I would say, half decade. And it's predicted just to continue to see growth, which is why it's a really prominent area of marketing study at the moment. So some stats from Statista. In 2019, there were 3.25 billion voice assistants being used across the world, which is crazy to think. And with that said, it is predicted that it's just going to continue rising. Voice assistants are just going to continue becoming more popular and more popular. So it's predicted by Statista that by the end of 2024, so this year, there will be 8.4 billion VCSAs being used around the world, which arguably is a number higher than the world's population, which is really interesting. So it is, there's definitely a lot of opportunity for them there. And given that kind of predicted growth, my research has really been positioned to explore the wider use of VCSAs, how people are using them, how they're impacting consumer behavior. And then, of course, most of us here are working in industry, of course, how brands and how companies can make use of VCSAs alongside their existing marketing activities as well. So how have VCSAs really impacted the marketing landscape and consumer behavior overall? Now, first and foremost, they are focused on, of course, voice-based interactions. So first and foremost, they've really offered and helped, I guess, helped push this idea of increased convenience and service anytime, anywhere. So VCSAs, of course, allow consumers to perform tasks and access information hands-free whenever they actively need that information, which reduces the need to manually operate devices or search for information, find your phone, grab your laptop, grab your tablet. And this convenience has really impacted the way in which consumers search, to a certain extent, the way that they have the opportunity to shop, the way they communicate, and then, of course, the way that they interact with technology. Because it's almost like they have a virtual assistant that they can talk to, or a virtual secretary that they can talk to and that can help them at any point of the day, anywhere they are within their home or at any time of the day. So we've seen an increase in convenience, and customers, especially in today's day and age, especially when it comes to digital marketing, look for convenience. They want things now. They're in the kind of when they need it, they want it kind of perspective at the moment. So we've definitely seen an increase in convenience. We've also seen a shift in search behavior, and this focuses more on how customers search for products. Now, with VCSAs, consumers are able to conduct voice searches rather than having to, as we say, type in a search query into Google or to the search engine that they're using. And this shift, especially in the area of digital marketing, has really influenced search engine optimization strategies, because businesses now have to optimize their content for voice search to remain visible to customers. It's not always going to be about actual text-based searches anymore, because VCSAs have offered this opportunity to really increase your presence within the searching kind of world. So we've definitely seen a shift in search behavior, and it's something as marketers that we have to keep in mind. No one is always going to be searching on their phones anymore or on physical text. There's going to be opportunity, and there is now opportunity to search via voice. Now, with that, we've also seen a rise in voice commerce, and my research had a bit of a look into how consumers purchase via their VCSA devices, if they do, in fact. And it's definitely still a very new area. It's a very growing, it's a very slow growing area within academia, but it's a very interesting area because I'm sure some of us who own VCSAs know you can actively purchase products via voice through your VCSA, Amazon Alexa specifically. So it's a really interesting area, and it enables customers to make purchases through voice commands, which has contributed to the growth of voice commerce in itself. And with consumers increasingly becoming more comfortable using VCSAs, us as marketers have to consider if there's opportunity to further strategize so that when they do go to purchase through voice, we're the first brand or opportunity that comes up for them. And then, of course, things like personalized recommendations. It's no surprise VCSAs collect data. They leverage data on things like how consumers behave, consumer preferences, and because of that, they are able to provide consumers with a more personalized approach than kind of traditional interactions are able to. So customers nowadays expect things to be a lot more personalized. They expect things to be relevant to them, and they want every interaction to provide value. So this personalized assistance can have a really big impact and influence on purchasing decisions. They're able to help foster brand loyalty among customers, and ultimately, as marketers, we've seen a big increase in personalization impacting those relationships and brand loyalty that we build with customers. And then finally, integration into smart homes. So we've seen customers really shift towards the idea of smart homes at the moment. And when I say smart homes, it's, automating different areas of their homes, whether that be lighting, thermostat, security systems, so on and so forth, and engaging with those through voice commands. So we've definitely seen a change in how consumers bring technology into their home and interact with technology in their home. And alongside that, we also do see VCSAs providing this new opportunity where we can actively, cohesively, and organically, as marketers, engage with our customers in their home setting, with a VCSA potentially having the opportunity to serve as almost a digital salesperson in the home of the consumer. And of course, this is a very new kind of early area of research, but it's definitely an interesting area because VCSAs now offer that opportunity to really interact with customers within their home setting in a very organic way that we haven't been able to do so before, which is interesting. So VCSAs and marketing in itself, with changes in consumer behavior, marketers have of course seen quite a few opportunities and challenges. And with any type of new, quote unquote, new technology, we definitely see challenges, but also opportunities. So the first and foremost that we see is limited brand visibility. And with VCSAs, search results often usually yield one or two options, which really limit opportunities for brands to be featured prominently. So as marketers, it's definitely something that really needs to be worked on. How can we optimize our content for voice search and ensure that brands are included in VCSA responses? Because VCSAs are also very voice-based, there's very limited visual and textual information compared to traditional kind of platforms like our phones, like tablets, laptops. There's a reduced user interface. And marketers, of course, need to find ways to convey different brand messaging, product information effectively through voice-only interfaces, which has been a real challenge. Next can be privacy concerns, and this is relevant for both, of course, chatbots and VCSAs and any type of AI-based platform, I would say. Ultimately, they're collecting and storing user data in order to improve their performance. And as marketers, we've really struggled to try to figure out how to navigate privacy concerns and also ensure compliance with things like GDPR, CCPA, while leveraging user data. And targeting our marketing efforts. It's important to remember, of course, VCSAs are going to be put and positioned within private parts of a user's home. So it's very important that we make sure that they feel comfortable interacting with their device and that they are comfortable interacting with their device, because of course that can have a big hindrance on how they use it. And then finally, voice commerce competition. With the rise of voice commerce, and it's still slow, but it is happening, brands usually face increased competition for consumer attention and purchases. And as marketers, we have to find a way to differentiate ourselves, but also to provide compelling reasons for consumers to choose our brand over competition. And we have to do that via voice, because as we say, there are no text or visual kind of add-ons with VCSAs. But with that, there are a lot of opportunities. As I mentioned before, VCSAs collect data, which leads to the opportunity for personalized recommendations. And as marketers, we kind of have more of an opportunity now to enhance the relevance of what we're offering and hopefully impact the effectiveness of our marketing campaigns. We also have voice commerce integration, where we are able to leverage voice commerce capabilities to help streamline the purchasing process, but then also to capitalize on things like impulse buying behavior among customers, which presents a lot of opportunity to drive sales, increase revenue, should voice commerce really take off. Also, things like brand loyalty, as I mentioned earlier, VCSAs can help to foster brand loyalty and strengthen relationships because they're able to provide service when it's needed, where it's needed, in a very organic kind of natural language approach, with a very organic natural language based approach. So it helps kind of give a little bit of a human side to a brand. And my research looks at anthropomorphism, the idea of giving human attributes to a device. So with the kind of the natural language of VCSAs and the organic conversation that they offer, there is opportunity to build relationships through kind of humanizing your brand. And then finally, things like data-driven insights. I mentioned earlier with privacy concerns, VCSAs do collect data, which offers the opportunity to really make use of data, valuable insights into how consumers behave and different trends to really optimize marketing strategies in themselves. So how does VCSAs, what do VCSAs actually look like in marketing? They're used by a lot more brands than you'd actively think, including some of the ones that I have on the screen now: Starbucks, Tesco, Moonpig, Boots, McDonald's, National Rail. But I wanted to give a quick example of one of the kind of leading skills, quote unquote, and brands making use of VCSAs at the moment, and that's AO.com. So they obviously offer technology. They sell technology-based products and appliances, fridges, ovens, microwaves, things like that. And they've really integrated VCSAs into their marketing strategy to help provide their customers with added value. So they allow customers to use their VCSAs to do things like track orders, to search for products and get recommendations, and then of course to make use of customer support as well. So VCSAs, their Alexa app, can answer common user questions about products or services or policies. Users can get help with issues such as returns or refunds, or even troubleshooting as well. So it's a really good example of a brand that has integrated VCSAs into their marketing strategy to really provide that additional value to their customers from their home setting, which is great. So I'm very conscious of time. So alongside VCSAs, we'll jump into the role of chatbots. And chatbots have arguably, they've been around much longer than VCSAs, of course. But they're a fantastic example of conversational AI being used to provide value. So there's two types of chatbots. The first is a rule-based chatbot, and that follows predefined rules and logic to generate a response. But then there's also AI-powered chatbots, and these use machine learning to continuously learn and improve their responses based on user interaction. So rule-based chatbots are quite limited. They can only go so far, whereas AI-powered chatbots are continuously learning and improving their response. And of course, chatbots are engage with customers via text, as I mentioned before. So while both chatbots and VCSAs serve similar purposes of kind of facilitating human-computer interactions and providing assistance, chatbots, as I say, typically rely on text-based interfaces, while VCSAs use voice commands and responses. But both technologies really continue to evolve, and they play very important roles in various applications, specifically in customer service, marketing, and of course, home automation. So common applications of chatbot. So unlike VCSAs, which are usually positioned within a customer's home or even on their phone to a certain extent with Apple Siri, unless it's a home-based device, chatbots are usually seen within the sphere of digital marketing, and they're commonly used within digital marketing. So chatbots are applied in marketing across various channels and functions. And as I say, they're usually used to enhance customer engagement, to streamline processes, to drive business growth. They have a lot of different functions and options and opportunity with chatbots. So the first and the most common that we're probably all familiar with are chatbots on websites. So chatbots are usually deployed on company websites to do things like greet visitors. I know we've all got that pop up before. When you're on a website, a chatbot will pop up and say, "Hi, this is Sarah. How can I help you?" That is a chatbot, and they use it to kind of greet visitors, but also to provide assistance, to answer frequently asked questions in real time. And they can ultimately be used to guide visitors through the sales funnel. They can offer product recommendations, they can capture leads, so on and so forth. So these are kind of the most common ways that we see chatbots in use. But there's also a lot of other usages for them and applications for them. One that we see quite a lot is social media messaging. So chatbots have recently been integrated with social media platforms like Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Twitter, to enable brands to engage with customers directly within their common everyday messaging apps. And these can usually handle customer inquiries. They can help with processing orders. They can provide personalized recommendations. And ultimately, they leverage the popularity of social for customer interaction in itself. Now, within more of a revenue-focused setting, chatbots can also be used for things like lead generation and qualification. So they usually embedded in things like landing pages or lead capture forms to engage with website visitors or wherever they're based to engage with visitors to qualify leads, collect contact information, but they can also do things like ask qualifying questions to make sure that the person interacting is actually suitable for the type of conversion that they have in mind. They can provide relevant contact. They can route qualified leads directly to sales representatives, which we see quite a lot actually. You might first start interacting with a chatbot, but then move through to actually talk to a real person and a real sales representative once you've kind of been qualified or deemed worthy to talk to an actual sales representative. And with that, we see things like sales and e-commerce come into play as well. Customer support and service come into play. Chatbots are very, very, very heavily used as the first line of customer support. They handle routine inquiries, they troubleshoot issues, they provide assistance. And the good thing about them is they're able to do this 24/7, which offers so many opportunities for brands, which I'll actually talk about in the next slide. But overall, they're a very versatile tool. They can be applied throughout the marketing funnel, straight from kind of lead generation all the way through to customer acquisition to post-sale engagement, and they can help with building relationships. And by leveraging chatbots effectively, marketers can really enhance customer interaction. They can do things like automate repetitive tasks, and they can ultimately spend their time and efforts in other areas while still driving business results in an effective way, an efficient way as well. So, similar to VCSAs, chatbots do pose many benefits and opportunities for marketers, but there are also some challenges. Now, depending on the type of chatbot that's being interacted with, they do have a limited understanding because some of them are rule-based. So they may struggle to understand complex queries or nuances in language, which can lead to misunderstandings or provide inaccurate responses. And because it is text-based, customers are usually a lot less forgiving. Whereas with VCSAs, my research has really looked into the relationships developed with VCSAs and their users. And you see with VCSAs, because they are so human-like, customers are more likely to be a lot more patient with their devices and give them a little bit more grace. Whereas a text-based kind of chatbot doesn't kind of get that same feeling. Customers get frustrated very, very easily. And that leads well into the next challenge, which is lack of human touch. Some customers might prefer having that human interaction over chatbot, particularly for things like sensitive or complex issues that may require empathy or understanding. Whereas because VCSAs are anthropomorphized from kind of the manufacturer, and given those human attributes, they're a little bit more well-suited. Of course, they're still not going to be human, but they're a little bit more well-suited to more kind of empathetic, providing more of an empathetic approach. Challenges also include things like integration complexity. Integrating chatbots with existing systems and process can be quite challenging for marketers, and it will require coordination likely between different teams and departments, which can be quite tough. Now, because, as I mentioned, chatbots are usually rule-based, they do require regular maintenance and updates to ensure they remain effective, unless they are AI-based where they're constantly learning. And then finally, similar to VCSAs, we have privacy concerns. Collecting and storing customer data through chatbots can, of course, raise privacy concerns. No one really wants to type out their personal details to a kind of a live chatbot on a website, unless they're sure that businesses are implementing really robust security measures to protect their data. Now, on the other hand, we see a lot of opportunity for benefits that come with chatbots. As I mentioned before, 24/7 availability. Chatbots are able to provide round-the-clock customer support, They can allow businesses to engage with customers at any time, regardless of things like time zones or operating hours. Whereas traditionally, if you had a question, you needed support, you'd have to go into a shop between the hours of 9 to 5, or you'd have to ring a helpline between 9 to 5. Chatbots now allow for that to be done 24/7. Instant responses as well. Chatbots are able to get back to people instantly without having to have wait times. You don't have to have a room full of customer support agents who can only pick up one phone call at a time. Chatbots can answer as many queries as needed, which reduces wait time and also can improve customer satisfaction. We have scalability. They can handle multiple conversations simultaneously, as I mentioned before, which can allow businesses to scale their customer support operations. They're very cost effective. They can automate repetitive tasks and inquiries, which reduces the need for human intervention, which can in turn save time and resources. And then similar to VCSAs, they have the ability to leverage data on customer preferences to provide that kind of personalized recommendation and tailored response, which can enhance customer experiences as well. So very conscious of time. As I say, there are a lot of good brands making use of chatbots at the moment. One example that I think is very strong is NatWest, one of the leading banks in the UK, retail and commercial banks. And they've actually deployed a chatbot named Cora to enhance their customer service and to, of course, support across various channels. And Cora is able to do things like the traditional customer support, give details on account balances, transaction history, payment assistance, but she can also do things like provide product information, upsell products, schedule appointments, help with fraud protection and prevention. And it really demonstrates how chatbots can be effectively integrated into things as personal as banking services to help provide a really convenient and personalized customer experience while also improving efficiency and accessibility for those that are using it. So a very, very good example here and a really strong example of a chatbot being used very well. So So knowing kind of a little bit more about the two main types of conversational AI and their pros and cons within marketing. I wanted to very quickly kind of start to wrap things up by discussing the impact on marketing as a whole, the impact of conversational AI on marketing as a whole. And some of these will ring true because they've kind of been positioned already as benefits and opportunities. But we've really seen conversational AI make such a difference within marketing and offer such a difference and opportunities within marketing. So as I mentioned before, it really provides that opportunity for more intuitive and seamless interactions, which allowing users to communicate with technology in a more natural and conversational manner. Whether it's VCSAs and a customer is able to sit down and ask questions while sitting on their sofa, or ask questions while cooking dinner, or purchase a product while cooking dinner. It allows for that kind of more natural conversational manner. And because of that, users experience increased convenience, their efficiency. It makes a big difference on their efficiency, satisfaction, which is great. One of the respondents within my PhD thesis actually would order their groceries while they were cooking dinner. They'd have their Alexa device order their groceries, which saves them a lot of time of having to sit down on their phone or on their computer or even go to the shop, come up with a whole grocery list and spend their time doing that. They could kind of multitask, which was super efficient for them. Personalization and relevance, as I mentioned before, there's a whole lot of data behind VCSAs and chatbots and conversational AI in general, which can really help and impact user preferences, behavior, past interactions, and can really help us to plan for that. So users are much more likely to want content and services that are tailored to their individual needs, and the data that comes with conversational AI really helps us there. Now, accessibility and inclusivity. I don't think I've touched on this one before, but Conversational AI has really made an impact on making technology more accessible to a wider range of users, including those with disabilities and limited mobility. One area that has a lot of potential for exploration is maybe how VCSAs are used within the elderly community, because there's such an opportunity to have those kind of voice interactions without actively having to get up, or if someone has limited mobility, without actively having to find a phone or a laptop or a tablet, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of opportunity there, especially when it comes to accessibility and inclusivity. Because of course they do enable hands-free, VCSAs especially, enable hands-free access to information and services, which improves accessibility and inclusivity. Now, there's also automation and efficiency. Conversational AI can help to automate repetitive tasks, as I've mentioned before. And they really just offer marketers the chance to focus their efforts and their budget in other areas, because conversational AI can really help take away some of the brunt of repetitive tasks and processes, and can help free up time for users to focus on more meaningful activities, but also for marketers to help to focus on more meaningful activities. And then finally, intelligent and contextual information in interactions. So conversational AI helps to maintain that context across multiple interactions because it's getting to know the user, and it enables more coherent and intelligent conversations. And Amazon Alexa, for instance, gets to know its user over time, and will start recommending different things. It will start answering in certain ways. It will understand references. It will remember previous interactions. It will adapt responses based on the current context that it's in, which will help lead to a more meaningful and productive interaction, which is definitely something that brands can use from a perspective of really trying to build relationships with their customers, and also ensure that their customers get the best experience possible. So I want to leave some time for questions, so I'll wrap things up here, but very quickly take a look at what's next for conversational AI. So we've explored, of course, the transformative impact of conversational AI in marketing, and it's really important to look to the future in this very rapidly evolving field, because it is very rapidly evolving. So there's kind of several future trends that I think are relevant for conversational AI in marketing. The first of which is advanced natural language understanding. So I believe, and from kind of what we've been looking at, we see future AI systems being better at understanding user queries and context especially, which will of course improve interactions. There's also multimodal engagement. So it's predicted that AI will, of course, support voice, text, image, and gesture inputs over time, rather than just being text or voice, which can help enhance communication across different platforms. Things like emotional recognition, which will be quite interesting. AI at this point in time, especially VCSAs, are kind of able to recognize emotions and respond accordingly. But it's predicted that this will be enhanced over the coming years, where they'll be able to detect and respond to user emotion, making interactions more personalized and engaging. Along with that, we'll see, hopefully, because this is where my research kind of lies, we'll see an increase in voice commerce growth, where conversational AI will continue to enable voice-based purchases, really transforming the e-commerce and driving the e-commerce kind of sphere and driving revenue in itself. There's also potential, I think, for AR/VR integration. AI might merge with AR/VR technologies for kind of that overall immersive experience, which would be super interesting, and could also be made use of by brands to enhance brand interactions. And then I did mention it earlier, voice search optimization. AI will continue to optimize content for voice search. Marketers will have to adjust strategies for visibility, because customers are going to continue searching, and kind of that initial information search as part of the overall customer journey may shift to being more voice focused. So marketers will definitely have to adjust strategies for visibility. And then finally, I think one thing that may be quite prominent and a future trend for conversational AI is the ethical AI practices and use. As conversational AI kind of becomes more prominent, I think there'll be more of an increased focus on the ethical use of AI, including things like transparency, fairness, accountability in AI-powered marketing interactions. And especially for products like VCSAs that are based in users' homes, I think it's going to be really interesting to determine how exactly these are used in an ethical way by marketers in themselves. So I think these future trends really highlight the evolving landscape of conversational AI in marketing and the opportunities it kind of presents for businesses to innovate, to engage their customers, and then to also drive growth in this digital era. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. So I'm going to wrap things up there. Of course, we've got a quick summary, which I won't spend too much time on because I'm conscious we only have about 12 minutes for questions. So I'll wrap things up there and I will open things up for questions. Again, thank you very much. It's been great speaking and presenting a little bit about my work in the area of conversational AI and also its application within marketing. I think as a marketer at heart, I think there's always that opportunity and it's such an interesting area, which I hope you guys found as well. So I'll take questions now if there are any. And I'll also put my contact information up on the screen if anyone is interested in keeping in touch. But I know we have about 10-15 minutes for questions anyway, so feel free to ask those now. Oh, Jack, I don't know if anyone else can, but I can hardly hear you.
Is that better?
That's much better. Perfect.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that presentation there. I came into this aware of one or two examples of conversational AI, and you just really expanded my knowledge there and showed what a diverse and intricate space it is. So thank you so much for that. We do have some questions coming in the chat, so I will cover as many of those as I can. So let's go firstly to one of the first questions that came in. I think that's from Fatini. Just asking if there was any bibliography or suggested resources that you would recommend for anyone interested in learning more about this.
Yeah, of course. So there's a lot of reading available at the moment. What I can actually do, Jack, I don't know if this will be helpful, is I can share some recent articles around VCSAs. That's probably the best way to go. There's a lot of conversation within industry at the moment. And I know Amazon actually has leading content around the use of VCSAs because, of course, Amazon Alexa is the kind of the biggest one in the sphere, but I'll share some details after this, and if you'd like to share those, that would be great.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. We'll make sure to share those.
Yeah.
So, a comment from Tyrone here. Hello to Tyrone, by the way. Nice to see you. He's commented that maybe better for companies to build in VCSAs into their apps to combat Amazon Alexa. Is that something that there's been some work around in terms of building VCSAs into apps?
Yes, absolutely. So there's kind of two ways that brands have been engaging with VCSAs. One of which is creating a skill to sit directly on Amazon Alexa, where it's a little bit more engaging, and you can kind of go back and forth with the quote unquote brand through that skill. Or else a lot of companies have also integrated Amazon Alexa into their apps, which kind of takes things off of voice and back onto kind of their app platform. A really good example of this was Starbucks, who for a really long time, I think they've recently switched up how they actually do this, but for a really long time, you were able to use Amazon Alexa to purchase a coffee for collection through their app. Now that kind of paired Amazon Alexa with their app, of course, and allowed them to make use of both, while also, of course, driving conversion, which is great. So there's kind of the two ways. There's the actual skill, or else there's pairing it with their app and kind of doing things that way. I think both have a lot of potential.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. I'll move on to another question here. It's a bit of a long one, but I want to read it out because I think it's a good question. What percentage of the population, maybe looking at developed markets, utilize CSA? I have one, but stopped using it because I got tired of repeating myself. I thought it was only my students. uncertain face. That said, how are brands addressing such ambiguities to increase adoption rate?
Yeah. So VCSAs I found are quite prominent in North America and the UK, predominantly English speaking countries. And that's one of the biggest caveats around VCSAs at the moment. A lot of them do speak other languages and do understand other languages, but it's quite limited. And of course, as well, if there are things like a strong accent at play, there's a lot of trouble there. So I found I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but I found there's the majority of use in itself is centered around English speaking kind of North American markets. I too have gotten very frustrated with my Amazon Alexa at times, because sometimes you just feel like you're repeating yourself over and over and over. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there for kind of growth into developed markets. And of course, it's going to take a lot of work to be able to understand and to engage in certain ways. Looking at how brands are addressing these kind of things to increase adoption rate, by no means do I really think VCSAs at the moment are kind of at the forefront of marketing strategy. But I think what brands are really doing at the moment, because things are still a bit ambiguous, is they're slowly starting to implement VCSAs into their strategy. For instance, as part of their search engine optimization strategy, which focuses on text-based search, they're also creating content that responds well to voice search and that lends well to voice search. And I think because it is still a relatively new area, it's still quite ambiguous. I think brands are really starting to just slowly integrate and kind of find the best kind of sweet spot until things are a lot more clear and until things become a lot more worldwide stream. But in regards to population, definitely more so North America, English speaking, and then I think it's just a slow integration into existing digital marketing strategies at the moment.
So it's a case of watch this space. Um,
Yeah.
we've got some lovely comments coming in the chat, so I'll just touch on a couple of these before asking you another question. Thank you, Rashid, who says, great presentation with nice insights. Thanks for the effort. We've got a message that says, hello, Bradfordians. I did my MSc in personal mobile and satellite communications in 2006 and currently work as Associate Dean PGS in CECOS University, Peshawar, Pakistan, and found the session very informative. Thank you very much. And someone who runs the live chat at the university website. Fantastic to hear from you there as
That is
well.
great.
Isn't that? Thank you, everyone, for your comments and agreed. Excellent presentation, Rachel. I'm going to ask you another question that's come in.
Yeah.
Do you think that chatbots will replace customer service job roles in the next 5 to 10 years? A question that many people will be asking.
I think arguably they kind of already have to a certain extent. I have on many occasions gone to reach out to a customer service team, and it's been 99% chatbot, and you're fighting to get through to an actual human. Now, I think it definitely already has had an impact on customer service roles. However, I think there is still a lot of opportunity for things to shift. Because people still want to talk to people. And I think there's going to be kind of a shift from being full automation back to kind of being half and half. I think kind of the biggest success at the moment are those brands that do the pre-qualification through chatbots and then shift you over to a customer service agent. And I think there's definitely opportunity for that to kind of go forward, because people are getting tired of automation to a certain extent.
Thank you, Rachel. Look, folks, we're coming towards the end of our allotted time. I think we should go over a little bit, Rachel, if that's okay with you, just because we've got some excellent questions coming in. But alumni, we're going to share a feedback form link in the chat for any of you who do need to head off on the market at 7 o'clock. Please do fill this out because it helps us improve our event and hear your alumni voice. But we will carry on going for 5 minutes or so more, and I'll get hopefully through 2 questions or 3 over to you, Rachel. So this is a good question here. I think it links into your previous answer, but what is the latency like on conversational AI? And do you have a view on how tolerant users are of latency for this type of system compared to maybe a more traditional chatbot? Perhaps the one that linked to your question before the last one.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting. So one of the areas that I looked at was specifically within my thesis was the idea of how customers build relationships with their VCSAs. And I think there's kind of an area of focus around anthropomorphism, which focuses on how customers are likely to attribute human-like characteristics. And I think one thing that I really noticed within my research is customers within the first to second week of using a VCSA started to very heavily anthropomorphize their product. They started giving it nicknames. They started calling it he or she, or referring to it in more of a human-like manner. And because of that, customers were a lot more open to being a little bit more understanding with their device. They were a lot more. I guess they had a lot more empathy for their device while also not forgetting that it was just a device in itself. And I think that kind of comes down to, like I say, the human-like characteristics of VCSAs in itself. When you actively kind of talk to a VCSA, of course they'll make mistakes, and of course it's frustrating. But I think as value is added and as customers become more used to the value that their VCSA can actively provide, they're going to be a lot more kind of not caring, but they'll be a lot more forgiving when it comes to interactions. VCSAs as well are also long-term interactions. They're not going to be used they're not going to be used once to answer a customer service related question and then never used again. They're used on a regular basis depending on what the customer wants to use them for. Whereas I think chatbots are kind of a one and done type thing. You use them once, they answer your question, they provide you with information, and then you likely don't go back to them. So I think it comes down to the relationships and the anthropomorphism of the device and how they're used over time, which really impacts how forgiving customers are in relation to or in comparison to things like chatbots.
Thank you, Rachel. Fantastic. I'll come to a question from Tyrone here. Any thoughts on if conversational AI needs regulation or perhaps more regulation? And the comment that it will become very persuasive, especially when integrated with Gen AI.
I think definitely. I think that's definitely an area that will have to be very closely watched, especially because conversational AI, such as VCSAs, are going to be very easily positioned within the homes of consumers. I have one literally 10 feet away from me. I've had to shut the door so it doesn't keep hearing me saying Alexa, Alexa, Alexa. But I think there's definitely something that will need to be watched there. Especially looking at my research, I found that there are a lot of habits built by users of VCSAs where they really started to give VCSAs that kind of ability to quote unquote run their day-to-day life. They would have a wake-up routine. They would have their VCSAs ordering regular products for them over time, over a long period of time. And I think that kind of persuasion and the ability to persuade customers and choose on their behalf will definitely have to be kept at the forefront. And the ethical use of it in general will have to be considered.
I love this from Kerry. My son is called Alex. We have had to rename our Echo Dots. Thank you
Absolutely,
very
yeah.
much, Kerry.
I can imagine.
Okay, should we finish with a question here that I think it leads nicely off the last one, but takes us into a different space. And it'd be great to get your thoughts on, which is, to what extent do you think there could be a role in healthcare for these kinds of technologies?
I think this is super interesting, and it's an area that I've kind of been discussing with colleagues kind of here and there. But I personally think, and I think I mentioned it, there's a massive role for VCSAs and conversational AI in the area of elderly, those with disabilities, those with limited mobility. Because of course it's that kind of hands-free technology and that hands-free ability to interact and to discuss. I know, my grandparents, for instance, they had Alexas, and if there was ever a problem, they were always able to say, Alexa, call so-and-so, or Alexa, they'd be able to kind of call on it for assistance. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity there. I think there's also opportunity around the area of loneliness, and creating kind of more kind of combating loneliness within people with limited mobility, and impacting mental health as well. I can imagine, if you're elderly and you're living home alone and you maybe don't have as much kind of regular interaction, having a human voice to interact with can probably have a big impact on mental health, and kind of that everyday kind of feeling. So I think there's opportunity. I think it's really interesting. I'm sure it could be used from a practical perspective in certain ways, but I think specifically around the elderly, limited mobility, mental health, things like that could have a lot of potential.
When you mentioned about the developments that you foresee in terms of responding to emotion and adapting in that
Hmm.
way, that was so fascinating. And it's a
Yeah.
really interesting thing to consider that this really might support the elderly or dealing with those issues of loneliness. So it's
Hmm.
such a complex space. Thank you so much. I think we've got probably it's the best time to bring the webinar to a close. I can see we've got some excellent questions in, but I think these
Hmm.
probably require a probably another webinar to
Yeah.
talk about them. So there's an excellent question about SMEs in Africa exploring export opportunities. So I'd suggest that is one from Stephen. Perhaps that's one, Stephen, you could pick up with Rachel via email. Rachel has very
Yeah,
kindly
absolutely.
offered to take any questions. And if you haven't had your question answered tonight, please do send it over to the alumni office or to Rachel. Really appreciate you coming today, everyone. I'd like to wish or to thank Rachel wholeheartedly on behalf of our alumni and development office, but also on behalf of our guests. I can see that there is some fantastic and heartwarming praise coming in for you, Rachel. People have really
Oh,
enjoyed
great.
this. And I want to
Thank
say
you.
as well, there will be a recording of this session available. And thank you, everyone, our alumni, for coming along to this session. You are a very valued part of our university. I know we have a global alumni base, not just in with alumni in Bradford, but across the world. And it's an absolute treat to welcome you to events like this. So I could hope you can attend our future webinars. And perhaps this session has brought back some memories of your time at Bradford. Before we finish, Rachel, do you want to say anything before we close the webinar off?
No, just a thank you. It's been great to chat to everyone. I hope you enjoyed. And please do feel free to reach out if there's any questions or anything you'd like to further discuss. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have a chat by email or through LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Rachel. We really enjoyed that. Thank you to our alumni community for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you for our next webinar on March the 20th at 11 a.m. So look out for that. Have a good evening, everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.